Yo, so the opinions and views expressed in this podcast are that of our own and the future Bachelor podcast only, and not affiliated with any outside party or entity or anything like that. This fun podcast, though, may include some adult language.
Future Bachelor podcast.
You know what we do around here, right, Veronica?
Yeah,
it's that time to talk about Bachelor stuff on our show. But before we get into this week's episode, YouTube, why don't you go ahead, subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we drop new Bachelor-related content. And if you just did, huge shout out to you. Air horns all around. Yeah. Okay, Veronica. Let's get into this week's episode. This was like I said earlier, I think this was a big episode to me. I wrote down a lot of notes. I feel like there was just, with the continuation of last week's episode into this week's episode, I feel like they had a lot of stuff in it.
Timelines.
Yeah.
That we have.
We start kind of with like the intro and they preview the 2-on-1 that's coming. We get that better than sex line that Shanae drops that we get to see a little bit.
We get that sign a lot. We get that line like three times.
We do in the last two episodes,
minutes.
but I'd rather that than the stuff they give us of Clayton at the end of every episode, but we'll talk about that later. So I mean, this is, people are saying they're previewing, people saying they're falling in love. We got a preview of Sarah and Mara, the new feud going on in the show, but we're gonna get into all that. We start off in Toronto and we're talking about the 2-on-1. Veronica, you want to set us off?
Yes, so we're dropped back into Niagara Falls, if you will, and we're getting more to like the non on the boat portion where they're just hanging out. They're trying to get their separate time. Obviously, it's just, you can feel the awkwardness is there because like we all know that this is just a make or break date to kind of either to weed out it's a weed out date. And it seems Genevieve was one of the main gals who had been talking about Shanae, but like honestly, like in the grand scheme of things, they could have picked almost anybody besides like the front runners to fill her spot. I felt like in this general theme, just because everybody had a bone to pick with Shanae. But Shanae enacts her little acting plan. After Genevieve went first to talk, they see him. Everything seems pretty run of the mill talk between them. She gets vulnerable, says how she hopes that he realizes that she is really there for him, even if she isn't as open all the time, but it's just like she has a hard time expressing emotions, etc. Pretty run-of-the-mill date talk, things that we see.
Yeah, they ended with a little makeout, that she was like pretty much essentially like she's sorry, her feelings are growing, but she's sorry about being distant, and she's just trying to reassure Clayton that, it's been weird in the house, but like she is here for him, and they make out. And Shanae is peeking around the tree,
I know, she's like
literally
meme,
cartoon, like boo, and making like fun of her for crying and stuff. And Shanae is still not worried, she has a plan. And Clayton, talks about tension, and he doesn't, doesn't necessarily trust, what's going on here, and then here Shanae comes up and it's her turn to talk to Clayton. And I do think that Shanae is good at one-on-one time with Clayton, the way she is.
She knows how to scam. She's a scammer.
What do you
Shanae
think?
the scammer.
What do you think went wrong? Obviously, Clayton, confronts both of them after, Shanae cries and says,
Shanae pulls out the waterworks. She says that Genevieve, is an actress and that she, wanted to go home, and says all this stuff about Genevieve, which none of it's true. None of it happened. And, she says all that, and then they go back, and Clayton has no critical thinking skills. He just doesn't have it.
Yeah, he's so gullible. I hate it.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
He has no critical thinking skills. So, and he decides when he's sitting back down with both the girls, he just turns to Genevieve and he's all like, I just gotta know. Are you lying? Are you an actress? And Genevieve, rightfully so, is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but I love to see Shanae, seeing
Shanae's
things
just
unfolding.
grinning.
No, she's just she does this really trying to compose yourself, inhale through the nose thing. You're like, don't show any emotion, but it's going down, like, you know, that type of thing. And yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously, I thought there was more to the actress thing, but like, you know, Shanae was saying it as like, you know, kind of like you're being an actress because you said you wanted to go home, and today you're saying another thing. So she's just manipulating, like, you know, the conversation and stuff. And you know, Clayton is really confused because he's got this hot Shanae girl right here, and then he's got a sweet Genevieve right here, and it's obviously awkward, and he has to walk away. He has to do these step away
His
things.
signature, let me walk away for a moment.
Yeah.
Like,
so the cameras can get you guys awkwardly just sitting from across from each other.
His like very ill-fitting jeans. His jeans were bad. Like that was like the first thing I noticed. Like when they had him walk away, I'm like, let's not put Clayton in this skinny of a jean. It looks weird.
Yeah. So this awkward day is coming closer to an end. He does confront Genevieve. Genevieve is just like, you know, what? And, you know, and then he steps away. Shanae confesses to her that she told her what, like, she said to Clayton. And, you know, she thinks that the Chihuahua has drowned. She, you know, she's overconfident, saying she's now sent home, quote, 3 bitches home. And,
I know.
And Genevieve says she's not going to engage in this type of behavior. And yeah, I think this is pretty much where Clayton comes back. And Shanae does not get that rose, unfortunately.
No, which was a surprise. I really thought that, I was like, they're gonna stretch this bitch for another week. They're gonna like to kick her out in Croatia. But no, like he pretty much comes back and he's all like, you know, takes a lot. Like he's like, but I can't, like in my heart, I can't find a reason to give you this rose, Shanae. Like I think all the things started to stack against her, and I think he just finally was all like, all right, well, I guess this is it. And there's been some rumors or things floating around that, like, you know, producers made him keep her longer, or like he's all like trying to say stuff like that, like she's ruined his credibility or like whatever. And I'm sure there's obviously producers play a role in all of this.
No, dude, like, I mean, just straight up, like, Clayton, like, Shanae is hot. Like, you know, I think she's hot as you know.
Right. She's a blonde.
Yeah.
She's blonde.
I mean, over the other blondes that are there, I think she's very pretty, and, you know, when they're together, they seem to have some chemistry. So why wouldn't he want to like her? But, you know, as it goes on and on, there's only so many, like, you're like, is this like...
He's given her so many chances, and he's like...
Yeah.
And he's all like, also, he's like, you know, apologize to the girls. How did that go? And like, obviously, when he's, you know, still getting, Genevieve didn't say anything specific about Shanae in it, but she's all like, you know, I'm sorry. Obviously, things have been crazy in the house and whatever, but like, you know that I'm here for you. And I think the fact that the way she reacted to whatever Shanae made up, I think that's when Clayton was all like, oh, maybe I'm the clown here. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Dude.
And then back at the hotel or wherever where the other girls are, the bags are sitting there, and the bag lady makes it all dramatic now, you know.
And she stands in front of it, and looks at it.
Oh my God, it was the worst.
I know. I'm like, they're 2 distinct bags. It's like she knows, like she obviously is told what to do. And then they are all the girls back in the hotel freak out. They're like popping champagne bottles. I'm like, okay.
Well, this was my first sign of early prediction of Mara going home that I wrote down in my notes. But I mean we'll talk about that more. Shanae is shocked. She's like, F that guy, and it ends like...
Look how quickly she turns from being all
mean, it's not even... We knew how quick she could turn. She goes from crying to being on camera talking about how great she did crying. So we knew how fast she could turn. It ends with a fuck you, Clayton, at the end of that. And
as she's like screaming from the boat.
Yeah, about to go under the falls. So yeah, she doesn't come back, and the girls celebrate by popping champagne. And now we're at the cocktail party. And Clayton learned he can make tough decisions, apparently.
Yeah, so much growth. And he, like, talks about how relieved he is that he, like, sent Shanae home. Like, and, like, the girls are like, what?
Yeah,
what?
and well, I mean, the girls are feeling relieved too. They're you know,
they are too, but they're all like,
say at
wow,
the beginning
thanks,
of
dude.
Yeah, they're doing this at the beginning of every date that Shanae is not imposed of. Now Shanae won't be there anymore. Now Mara's talking about no drama. And I was just like, you know, they're just showing Mara, or is it Mara or Mara?
I don't even remember, to be honest.
But yeah, so she's the one that's getting popped up a lot. You know, last episode, this episode, a lot more. And Clayton comes down and he's just relieved apparently, and he can hear the girls singing from the elevator, so they must be happy. And Sarah goes and pulls Clayton first. She's feeling very confident about getting the rose that night, and then Rachel comes in, another front runner, and gets validation from Clayton, and she already has a rose. They make out big. Mara's getting in her head because she doesn't have a close connection with Clayton yet.
No, and Mara, whoever, she is the kind of girl, she's like 32, so she's like the oldest girl in the house, which that's like just so sad that they're like 32, so fucking old. But like she's definitely the kind of girl who's at a crossroads in her life where I feel like she's the type who is like, why am I not married already? Why am I not? And she's just looking for someone to fill the box of like the checklist of like, my life should be here at this age. And she just wants to insert Clayton into that box.
Yeah. And what's annoying is that she feels like just because she is 32, that she's put in the time and she deserves to be here more than anybody else.
She just really is writing this narrative that because she's that age, she's the most wifey material, which to me just honestly, as a woman, that just feels sad that that's like all you're like living to be. Ew. But like she's really feels some kind of way about it.
Well, she starts feeding poutine. Like this is why she's not like getting dates, is because you keep feeding him anytime you have. No one wants to eat when they're out here trying to be fresh.
Yeah, because she's the saucy gal.
No.
She was like the one. Who
we
came
don't
out
want
with the
that.
sauce.
Like you show me you're good at food and all that stuff. Like when we're out of here.
Yeah, I'm wifey material. Like whatever.
No, we don't need it. So she gets cut off really short because she spends her 3 minutes feeding Clayton poutine in Canada, and then Serene comes in and cuts her off short, and Mara's just very upset about it. She starts to spiral.
She's upset. She's like talking to like the producer, and then Marlena comes over and tries to comfort her. Like. She just like is already spiraling before this like rose ceremony.
Right. And here we come to the rose ceremony. Hunter, this is where they start showing people who are obviously on the chopping block. Hunter is already crying. She's probably going home. This is in my notes, so I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves. It's just like you see it and you're like, she's going home. Mara, is giving dirty looks to Sarah already, like in the lineup. Like, you're seeing like the shade and the side eye from her. And on the chopping block this week, we got Marlena, we got Mara, and we got Hunter. And those are the ones. And do you ever look at the way they position the women on the lineups now? I've never really looked at that, but like obviously they're positioned in a way, right? Like they always have like the three final ones in an angle where like a camera can see all of them. So
yeah,
this is where I think like producer stuff is coming in. Mara is saved, and I think like. She got the last rose. She got the last rose, but I think she's saved because of the producers. I was gonna say because I don't know why. Like I thought that's the only reason why. I think like now that we got Shanae out of here, she's like the new villain.
She's the new villain. I was upset that Marlena went home just because Marlena kicked ass in the last 2 weeks of group dates. And just in general, honestly, she's too good for Clayton. Hunter, we barely got to see anything with her. We don't really know who she is. I'm sure she's a nice girl.
So at the end of this roast, Sarah Mara gets, she's saved by the skin of her teeth. And Clayton lets them know that they're going to be crossing the Atlantic Ocean and they're headed towards Hvar, Croatia, where I've been, and it is so beautiful. So everything you see there in the opening scenes is like, I've been to all that stuff. It was like the yachts, the castles, and all that stuff. It's just really one of the most beautiful places ever. And so that's where we're at. We get there. The girls are checking out the new room. We get our Clayton scream from the balcony. Clayton's running around town. And we get to him meeting the girls inside of Hvar, the city and stuff. And it looks like it's starting to rain. But before he even shows up there, the girls are talking and thunder's hitting. And, Mara's just kind of like in her feels right now. Like, I think there was some talk about what they're expecting from the day. And Sarah kind of talks back underneath. I mean, it was very like, I could see why you would get a pinch from it. But, it's just the way it is. But they've been beefing. She's the youngest, she's the oldest, and there's like beef between them.
Yeah, they made like it all started with the roast and like whatever, and then she just Mara. I really don't remember how to pronounce it.
Let's go with Mara because I like Sarah versus Mara. Like,
yeah,
you know
that's
what I'm saying?
cute. So she's like really gunning for a one-on-one date, and Clayton comes up to the group of girls and he's like, "And the dates start now. I'm taking one of you guys on a one-on-one, like right this second." And he grabs Teddi.
Who is Teddi is my favorite. Like literally,
I love
she's
Teddi.
beautiful. She's
She got
awesome.
the first impression rose.
She's one of my faves,
you know,
yeah. So I mean, Sarah is one of my faves too. But like, you know, I like how reserved and also outgoing Teddi can be. Like you can see both sides of her.
Yeah,
and
Teddi definitely is dynamic in a way that a lot of the other women
Before we get too far
aren't.
down this date, I do want to talk a little bit about like what are the girls supposed to think when girls are getting multiple one-on-ones now? Like, you know, I kind of feel from
nobody's got a one-on-one, a multiple one-on-one yet.
Well, I'm just saying though, like when it does happen, like, you know, I feel like they really are starting to pile it on Mara. Like it's kind of hard to watch. Like what, like she's trying and she's like just not being seen, and just how are you not supposed to think that you're not on the chopping block after getting like the last rose and all that? So,
right.
So we start at a wishing well. And it is raining. They're walking around, you know.
They're raining. They make him take down the umbrella multiple times. You could tell, and his just giant broad shoulders. He's getting all wet. He's in a gray shirt. It's not ideal. They get ice cream. They're just going to different little shops and stuff around.
Did you notice the way she pronounces his name? Like Clayton. Like she's like Clayton. Like she does it multiple times, but I noticed that she has like kind of difficulty saying his name or something, or that's just the way she's saying it. Like
maybe
Clayton,
she's just really trying to enunciate. I don't know.
She's definitely.
But this is ice cream date number 3 of the season when they got their ice cream.
Yeah, what are they supposed to do when the day dates are lame as hell? Like they always are. Especially like what like
unless they have like an actual activity like this, like they're not.
They must have had their activity taken away from them because of the rain or something. Like they probably were gonna do like a yacht or something, and that just kind of didn't work out or something. But yeah, I mean, it really quickly goes into the dinner portion of the date, and we all know what the conversation is coming, right?
Right. Teddi reveals that she's a virgin. And I loved her explanation of it. I thought it was like really, you know, genuine and great. And she just was like, you know, it's because I told myself that I wasn't like gonna do that. She's like, I'm not even waiting until marriage. Like I realized that, you know, I'm a sexual person, like whatever, but she's like, I just want to be in love with somebody, and I haven't been in love with anybody. And so, you know, I just don't want to, it's not something I've wanted to do until I was in love with somebody. And Clayton he's like, oh, really? I couldn't tell. Like, what does that? He's the worst. And like, what does that even mean? This man is out here being all like, so, like, I just can't. Like, I'm like, you have the worst freaking response. I'm so happy that Teddy's just like a good person.
Well, this is the second girl on this episode to say she's never been in love. Like Shanae said it earlier in the episode, and now here's you know, Teddy saying it. So is this a concern for people? Like, I mean, obviously the Bachelor loves to bring these people into the show, but this is a concern, right? Like usually people think it's well, on the show, like usually people are like make a bigger deal of like people not being in love like before, because I think it is because I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if like you just love one person. I don't think I've
ever been in love. I think there was times I thought I was in love, and then if I look back on it now, I was definitely not. I was just manipulated.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, love does change over time, and you can look at it differently. But I would look at love, I think, in present. Like, you know, if you felt like you were in love at one time, you may have been. Like, it's like you could look back on and be like, oh, I wasn't in love. But it's like, do you really remember like how you felt like when you were back then? Like you probably felt like you loved something, you know? And I don't know. I just think like to be like I've never been in love. Like I swear you like some people just use that as a way of being like not giving credit to the people that came before. Like, you know, it's just like I don't want to give them that credit that I was ever in love with them because they sucked. But just because people suck doesn't mean that you didn't love them at one point. So
I think you can, you know, love and care about somebody and not be in love with them.
I don't know. It's semantics sometimes to me. So I guess like she kind of like, explains it well to Clayton. Clayton's like, I could be her first of many things. And I think she's going to allow something in. I was like, dude, what the heck are these like?
Ew, he's so freaking gross. I cannot.
So yeah. So yeah, we're going back to the hotel, and we get the the
Holiday
group, whatever they're in, and they get the group date card, which will also tell them who is on the one-on-one date, and they make it very dramatic because Mare thinks like she's like hasn't had a one-on-one yet, so she should be getting it, but no, Sarah gets another one-on-one, which
second one-on-one.
They're just really piling it on Mare, like to make her go crazy. I mean, now that I think about it. She probably did a pretty good job at holding it as much together as she could, because in that vacuum, I could understand why you would be feeling like, what the hell? Like, what's the point? Like, are you just keeping me around longer just to let me go, like, in a week or two? Like,
right.
I don't...
Like, it's... Especially at this point, it's week 6. Like it's a lot of time. Like,
and and the flip point, it's like, Mara was all cool and stuff at the beginning when all the other girls were going home. But now that she's like on the bottom of the totem pole, now she's really feeling it. So, they get to the group date and they show up and Clayton's looking like a ninja, and this is appropriate because they filmed a lot of Game of Thrones over in Croatia.
Yeah.
And so they have Croatian knights ready there to sword fight and start the girls on their quest for the day. And the girls get to dress up in night gear, and they're looking all like that. They do like little night games of pushing each other out the circle with shields, and then they go
have to eat a bunch of gross shit.
They go into their eating challenge. I was gagging
the entire time.
They have a fear factor portion of their date.
So disgusting. I hate that shit.
I wonder if this is like something they're going to include in the show moving forward. Like, I mean, we've
seen like similar things on this show before, and I hate it. I hate it so much.
I'd rather them eat nasty food than just seeing them eat ice cream every other episode. So,
I mean, yeah, I guess.
But so yeah, they and Serena's going hard, like
Serena's
so hard.
All like. She is guzzling these like fish heads. She is just going. She's just going in, and she she's knighted the queen of the date.
Yeah, they had to do like a knight's creed and kneel on a knee and bend a knee and say what they want. And Mara actually does a pretty good job. She does this like poem that like,
I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty
clever.
flawless, and she was feeling confident. She thought she had it, but no, Serene's guzzling the fish heads was all like what you're supposed to do. Like, when you see it,
you can't beat that. You can't beat the enthusiasm she had for that nasty ass food.
Yeah, and I always think it's like a rock and a hard place because like you have to go hard and eat all that nasty food, but then you got like then you forever know that this girl like was guzzling fish heads and stuff. It's just like, but that's the name of the game. Everyone did it. So, so essentially, Serene wins that challenge. Mara's feeling like a peasant, and we get to the after party. Like he's like now stepping up the conversations and trying to get on a deeper level with these girls because hometowns is right around the corner, as he likes to remind everybody. And so Clayton is starts off with Rachel, and she, like kind of like. He's plotting with her. He's getting in her head, and very confusingly.
Him and Rachel are like very, as it seems right now, in it to win it, and they whisper sweet nothings at each other. Like he's like really trying to make sure. He's like, I want to make sure, like hometowns. Like, are you on the same page? Like, I want to make sure I'm not like going all in on you if you're not. And then she, of course, is all like. Yeah, like you don't even understand how I feel for you. Like,
she says she's falling so hard for him, like,
Yeah, and then they seemingly like are dry humping on this like little couch situation. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, now Mara comes in and she's got an agenda now. She's just like, I'm going to tell it like it is. And she like confronts Clayton about, about her being discouraged about what's been happening. She speaks her truth, she says.
Yes.
And this is where she actually becomes the new villain. If you haven't seen like the origin story in the last like episode or two, this is where it's solidified because, now she's talking drama. She's actually naming other girls' names in her confrontation with it. And how do you think Clayton handled it?
I mean,
I always feel like he's so gullible. He'll hear it and he's just like rocked by the news, and he's just like,
he's all like, Sarah said, like, because Mara is like, yo, Sarah said
some
she's
people
not
aren't wife
ready.
material. That's what she's kind of getting at. She's like, and she's talking about like now the younger girls in the house are just not ready for that because I'm old. I am ready for all this stuff and whatever. And essentially she gets in Clayton's head. Clayton wants to do his due diligence. So he already has announced that obviously Sarah's getting the one-on-one date and, essentially understands where she's coming from. So he kind of sets it up to make it sound like maybe Mara is going to get the rose for the after party. But nope, guess who got it? Rachel.
Of
course, Rachel.
He's like someone who always like makes me like, feel comfortable, whatever. But like, I'm like, Rachel did nothing but just like,
Essentially, we're at the point
sit on your
now,
lap
if he
this
got
day.
to pick just one person at the beginning, it would have been, after Teddi, probably would have been Rachel. So, day 2. A knock comes at the door and Clayton, is back in his room. He gets a knock on his door and a letter gets slipped under. He looks out and peeks like after waiting like 20 seconds for the person to run away. He opens the door and he's like, where do they go? And essentially the letter just says, what does it say? Clayton, meet me at the clock tower. And he's all like nervous because of the conversation. He's like, what's going to happen? And he walks up.
Who's it going to be?
And it's Susie. It's Susie. And I don't like her. I don't like Susie at all.
I like Susie.
I hate
think
Susie.
She's so cute.
And this is why we have this show, people, because like the people I like, Veronica
she's so
hates, and the people
fucking
she
cute.
likes, I hate. No, she sucks. All I'm saying
Why do you
is
think
like,
she sucks?
because this is not fair. This is not fair.
Yeah, I thought this was random. I was like, I do think this was random, and I don't know how they or why they said it. To me, it just felt very out of the blue. Like, Susie's like, I just, want to solidify my spot. And I'm like, okay.
No,
like,
the way she did it is like she told the producers because of, I bet you there's buzzing of hometowns now between everybody there. Like we didn't get to see much of it.
Or the producers like got into her head too.
No,
Think about
well,
it
that's
that
what
way.
I'm saying. Like that's what I'm trying to say is that like there's buzzing of hometowns and their producer, each of them get their own producer. Their producer's probably like, this is, you gotta tell him you love him or otherwise you might not make it to hometown. So she's like, all right, I'll tell him I'm falling in love with him if I can get this moment, outside of, this is not fair. Like this is not fair. I don't
disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think it was very random. It's like middle of the night. They go to a clock tower. She pretty much like tells him that
she gets a one-on-one date, which is kind of better than Teddy's like day date
for him.
Yeah.
And then, they make out a bunch.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I didn't like, I think I've said before, I'm not really feeling Susie.
I think she's cute.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think she makes it to the end. But yeah, she says she's fallen in love with him and he's like, ecstatic because who doesn't love to hear a pretty girl just say they're falling in love with them when you have.
Right. And he gets more makeout time.
Yeah. When you got 8 other girlfriends like around too, it's just like, yeah, I'm the man. So yeah, Susie, I'm just thinking like, what are the other girls thinking? Like the girl, like, does she really have to sneak out? Like where people are not like, where's Susie?
That's my thing is like, we saw when they first got there, like they have a bunch of like single beds and stuff. Like I'm guessing like, yeah, did she like tiptoe out? Like how did this work? To me, I agree with you there. Like I just think it was all kind of bizarre how this like mini one-on-one date was set up, and it just feels a little. It feels shady for sure.
Back at the house, Mara is now letting the secret slip and she's talking with Gabby over wine. And Mara's hoping that Sarah goes home after her one-on-one date. We see,
which like I'm like, where do you think that would ever happen? Like, do you really? I guess like she really thinks. I mean,
it was pretty close. It was pretty close.
It makes sense that she would think that because Clayton obviously has been pretty gullible in general, and as I said before,
about him being
lacks
gullible
critical
is,
thinking skills.
Dude, he's so gullible that people will be like, she said this, and then he'll go to that girl and be like, did you say this? And the girl's like, no, I didn't say that. Well, now I'm glad that we got to talk about it. Like, what did you think she was gonna say? She thinks she's like, yes, I don't want to be here. Like, I just wasted all my time just to be here for no reason. Like, you're an idiot. So he's so confused and scared that he needs to talk to Jesse Palmer about it, and Jesse Palmer gives his best, advice.
I would never take advice from Jesse Palmer. He's like, yeah, when I was at this part of my journey as well, I also was afraid of this. And I'm like, you didn't even end up with anybody from your season. Like,
Right.
how am I supposed to take advice from you, dog.
Yeah.
Like, you literally, you have no leg to stand on.
So
None.
Clayton's pretending
But
to
he's
be
like,
scared.
just, follow your heart. Follow your heart, Clayton. And Clayton's like, you're right. I will.
Oh man, Jesse gave me the best advice. It's like, what? All right, well, so yeah, Sarah comes around the corner and they have dinner and she's all excited and she gives this really sweet toast talking about momentum and how, like, they got to keep it going. I really like her. Like,
I like her too. She brought up how she's like, I understand the intentionality of this. Like, cause she got like really flustered when she got the one-on-one because she knows, like, it put a target on her back. Like, she knows that.
Not even that, like, but is it like, when you get a second date over someone who hasn't got one, you start thinking like, is this like his last chance to figure out if he likes me or not? Is he going to send me home?
Right.
So right after that, he confronts Sarah about the marriage thing and if she's ready for this and his concerns. And this is where I wrote down Clayton is so gullible. Just because it's just the way he asks questions. It's just like, dude, are you serious? Like, can you take like at least one night to sleep on it to like,
He just, as I said, no critical thinking skills.
Sarah gets shocked by the question and the accusation and gets really sad and she pleads her case and Clayton is sorry to upset her because he didn't mean to do that, but he's so confused.
And he does his walk away for about like 10.
Sarah is like breaking down. She's like, this is a bitch ass move. Like, yo, this is, when they start hating, they start making lies. Like, that's just kind of like what it is. And she kind of knows, like, she doesn't say it, but she knows. She knows what's going on here. And, after he comes back, he essentially, tells her that he believes, like, she tells him, she's crying and she's really upset, but she's genuine, I feel like, about saying, like, why she's there and stuff.
Well, yeah, she's like, I've never lied to you. Like, obviously, like, these are my feelings for you. Like, I feel like we've always been on the same page. Like, I don't want somebody else saying something to like take us away from that kind of deal.
Yeah. Now Sarah gets the rose and this is not good for Mara. Like, it can't be, right?
I mean, it can't be.
Yeah. I was hoping to see like the confrontation, but I guess we're going to have to wait till next week.
We're going to have to wait until next week. And it looks like they're trying to paint Sarah as like the cocky one now going into next week's episode, which I could see that being portrayed, but I also feel like my thing is like she has like a very solid connection with Clayton. It's like you got to be careful with like how you approach that.
Sure, completely. I agree. We'll I think Mara is, she's been in the weeds doing this, but it's just the same thing. That's the problem with these girls hating on another girl. It's like once you get the girl out, it's never going to end. Like, you guys are always going to hate the one that seems to be like standing out, or probably not even the one, like at least Rachel's kind of being like covert about it, even like
because
so much.
Rachel's definitely like a front runner.
Yeah, but she's just like not trying to talk. And, I'm sure Sarah's like the youngest one, so she's probably feeling herself. And I can tell by the way, like the stuff that we've seen from her, that she's very like she says what's on her mind. She's very outspoken and and it's not as sweet as she looks. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, is like, she seems like she has a lot of bite.
She's spicy.
Yeah, she's spicy. And, it makes for a good toe-to-toe with Mara. And I think, this, just the way Mara was talking to Gabby, it could be very possible that the girls turn on Sarah just because she's an easy target. Let's get, one of these top dogs out of the game right now, which is a good move, I guess. But it's just like, it's going to be your turn.
It's gonna come back and bite them for sure.
Right. But I mean,
well, at least Mara.
There was a lot of talk about karma. And ironically, you can't spell karma without Mara. So, yeah, there we go. But yeah, if you're talking about karma, girl, you got up on stage and started talking shit first and roasting her. So it's just like, this might be your karma for even opening that door. So, yeah, we get scenes of that next week. And essentially, it looks like the Sarah and Mara, controversy goes down. And then it goes back into the stuff we've seen about Clayton. The post-credit scene is of Hunter dancing, the final dance that sent her home, the shagging. And and then she gets in a wagon and goes home. So it's just pretty much, that's our episode. I thought it was a pretty decent episode. We got to go from different locations and see multiple people go home. So it was a good episode, I think. What'd you think?
I thought it was a good episode too.
Yeah. Any other news out of Bachelor Nation that we got to talk about?
Yes. So Hannah Ann is, has a boyfriend that has a NFL championship ring. Her boyfriend, she revealed who he was right ahead of the Super Bowl. His name is Jake Funk. He is a running back for the LA Rams. So, good for her. She's a little wag. And then in other news, Chriselle Stoss, who's known for her, she's one of the reality stars of Selling Sunset. She revealed in her memoir that she was supposed to be the lead of season 4 of the Bachelorette, but it ended up going to Deanna Pappas, which I think this is like kind of when they started doing the grabbing people from the previous season, because I guess Deanna Pappas went on Ellen after Jason from that season. Brad Womack from that season didn't pick either of his finalists and didn't give out a final rose. And so she went on and talked about how heartbroken she was, whatever. And I think that's kind of what started the spiral of let's pick, kind of like the heartbroken second place kind of person or whoever, even though Chriselle, I guess all of her stuff had been shot, all of the whatever. So I think that's a little interesting bit of Bachelor Nation history.
Totally. And also another shade at Ellen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. Well, yeah. Next week we got episode 7, week 7 of The Bachelor. We're getting up there in numbers, so you know what happens. He's gonna pick someone here soon, and it looks like Clayton's gonna cry eventually. I can't wait.
It's gonna be real broken soon.
Oh man, he's gonna be so broken. But also, he's so in love, and whatever he keeps saying in that one scene that I just can't stand. But yeah, guys, that is our episode this week. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, make sure you're subscribing and liking for more content. Who do you think is going home next week? Let us know in the comments.
Future Bachelor Podcast.